I get asked about this so many times, so many people, wrestling fans, and 24 years after, still to this day, so many people bring this up to me. This match actually means a lot because Rob was, the longest reigning ECW television champion at this point. He broke his foot. We were wrestling in Orlando, and then he had to relinquish the title. And then when Rob came back from his broken foot, that's when we went into this match. This is actually a really good match, really intense too. And I believe this was the first time he actually hit the Van Terminator. I remember fighting in the crowd, and then at the end of the match, Bill Alfonso would come into the ring, hit me in the back with a chair, but it was too high, and I call it the wrestler's scar, because every wrestler back in the day had a scar in the back of their head. The toughest part of fighting Rob is, it's just like you don't know where the kicks are gonna land. And it's one of those things where he's just so talented, and, like that dive, I mean, he's a big guy. I think right there, he's like 245. Still to this day, the fans just love him and take to him for a reason. The matches were pretty brutal, but yeah. And then if you'd ever turn his back, I remember the referee, John Pee Wee Moore, would tell me, he goes, he'll turn around, he'll do his RVD to the crowd. If you stand there and look at him, you'll look dumb, so just attack him. I go, really? He goes, yeah, he'll like you even more for it. I go, okay. And I would do that, and he'd come back, yeah. Just to get a victory over on Rob was a big deal, and to keep the title. I was 5 years into wrestling at this point. I had went overseas and worked in Germany for 2 seasons. I think if I would have went there sooner, I wouldn't have been ready. And at this point, I was ready for ECW, and then I learned so much in that short 2-year period.
The Sandman doesn't see Rhyno! Turn around! And Rhyno just gored the Sandman!
I always forget that I slipped on the Gore until I watch it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I slipped. And when you slip, when you're going to hit a Gore, you're like, this cannot be happening. But I recovered pretty well. I think so. Going out there and doing that and, getting the title, it was just an accomplishment that I would have never thought, would have taken place. So, pretty big moment. And just working with Sandman all that time prior, because that was really the first angle that put me on the map. Sandman was one of those guys that he looked at me and he said, I'm already over, kid. We need to get you over. He called it. He goes, the crowd will go silent because they'll think it's a screw up or something. He goes, then they'll start chanting refund. And that started to give me credibility, that angle, but it was nice that he did that, He goes, ow, no one will expect it, and sure he was right, so. When the company closed its doors, it was one of those things where you didn't really believe it was happening. It's like you're dating this girl and everything's going fine, all of a sudden she just leaves you, and no explanation, it's not there anymore. And I think it's longer to get over something like that, so I think that's like anything in life. When something's there and it's good and it's going good and it's not there anymore, it's just a big void that it takes a little while to fill. Oh, no, there's a horrible promo at the end. The worst.
Just as we planned, 6-time World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions. But look, we're gonna go back to the hotel. We're gonna stay here. We're gonna shower. You go back to the hotel.
Me?
Go back to the hotel.
Hotel!
Let's go to the hotel.
Yeah. Alone?
Don't maim anybody on the way.
Maim?
No, don't maim. Just go. We'll meet you there. We'll meet you there, big man.
We'll meet you there.
All right?
I had a tryout in 1998 and nothing went well. You know, I believe God works in mysterious ways, and then that same camp, Christian got hired. So, and I didn't, and then they came in, they were already getting their wheels going and everything when I was in ECW. You know, it's just one of those things where you looked out for each other, you know, and Edge really looked out for, you know, my name and really pushed for bring him in as a friend, not as a little brother, because you can have something, bring him in as a heater. I mean, I enjoyed because I was a big part of the whole invasion angle, just to be in the ring with guys like Austin and Undertaker and Kane and all those things. And then when Stephanie owned ECW, and it was good to work with her. And, you know, because whenever you do a pre-tape, you know, you're waiting on sound or stuff, and you learn a lot from her too, you know, business part. So, you know, just hearing all that advice and, you know, and just absorbing it. So it was just one of those things where I got a lot out of the invasion angle, you know, being part of it and just working with a lot of those men and women, you know. So I was in WWE for, maybe 3 months, and, you know, just keep your mouth shut, listen, and, you know, same thing. You're starting it over again from ECW there, and you know, you're like anybody starting a new job. But Steve Austin, I'm walking down the hallway, and I gotta tell him this, because this is one of the things, every time I see him, I forget to tell him this. But I'm walking down the hall, and he passes me, he's like, Rhyno, you're a good kid, you mean the world to me. And I'm just like, man, I literally felt like I started to float walking down the hallway. Literally 5 minutes later, I hear Austin say the same exact thing to a guy working at the building, like a security guard. He's like, hey, you're a good kid, you mean the world to me. And I was just like, oh. Yeah, it was like, it like took the air out of my sails, right? And so then, you know, that whole day he would say that. And Austin was great because he would find out something funny to say, and then he'd say it for a week or two, and then he'd move on to the next, you know, funny thing to say. But I'll never forget that. I'm just like, oh, I'm only here for a couple months, and, you know, things are going great. People are starting to accept me. You can feel it. I'm a great kitty. I mean the world to them. And then literally 5 minutes later, it was like, wah, wah, wah. Before this, they would do the 24-hour, like, you know, they would film, you know, in different places and stuff. And then with Raven and Kane and Big Show, they kind of got away from that, you know, the haha, and got more serious hardcore. So I don't say it was Raven and I that did this, but it was kind of like a few programs prior to mine that really allowed us to explore the more hardcore ECW style, opposed to the, you know, pin a guy in a bouncy house or something, you know. I'll never forget Raven. He's like, why don't you throw the shopping cart in the ring? And I'm like, I just, like, the shopping cart's his deal. I mean, I will, but, you know, and then I grabbed it to lift it in the ring, and I'm like, this thing is freaking heavy. And they're not easy to lift either, because, you know, they're so awkwardly balanced out. But, you know, it was always nice going to the I'd call it the prop shop, you know, just figuring out what you can find. And I think there was maybe one of those rubber chickens that go, I think we've used one of those, but yeah. Some people said the way the card was booked, that was a very important match of the night, and it came through, and it ended up becoming a very important match of the show, which was a big honor.
And Rhyno retains the winner of this bout, and still hardcore champion, Rhyno. Wait a minute! Oh my God! What the hell's Rhyno gonna do here? Can you feel it, Cole? Can you feel it? Him up! Let's go! Gore through the screen!
That was the last time they used this set. I get asked about this so many times, so many people, wrestling fans, and 24 years after, still to this day, so many people bring this up to me. But I'm like, this will get over like a fart in church. And that is one of the most asked, people love it. I've never heard one person say, I didn't think, or, oh, I thought that would get over like a fart in church or whatever, but everybody puts that over. Yeah, and I'm happy, So that's why I tell everybody, you know what, I'm not always right, like the younger generation and people I try to help out. I might tell you 10 things and maybe one thing might work out or maybe none of it works out. You got to figure out, but yeah, it's one of the top 50 moments in WWE, hardcore moments or some type of 50, yeah, top 50. So I'm 6 foot, power in my legs. I was nose guard and center, so you're coming off that line, pure power. Lower center of gravity, I always tell everybody, so once I hit that midsection. I always, just recently I've let the cat out of the bag. No one's ever kicked out of the Gore. And then people go, no, I think I seen so-and-so kick out of the Gore. And you don't know, that was a spear. So if they kick out, it's a spear. So nobody's ever kicked out of the Gore. But I think what makes it different, like that 0 to 60. Do I go Tori here or no? I hope I don't. Okay, good. She's just such a nice lady. I'd be upset with myself. I always enjoyed wrestling Tajiri, and then when I tagged with him, just his kicks and, just like the back elbow and stuff like that. So, but winning the U.S. title was a big accomplishment, when you go for any title. But it's a title that so many people have held, legends. And it was such a cool looking title too. Yeah, it was just like that title, there's a picture, I've got my shirt on and, you always wear your shirt out there, try to push your merch. And I got the title on it, which was a real cool picture. So that was, I think it was just a live event or something, but yeah, I see that pop up every once in a while, yeah. A lot of people don't know, this was my last match with WWE until I came back to NXT. I was able to wrestle with Sabu, and Sabu was my mentor in ECW. And I had never met him until ECW, but we were both Michigan guys, and we just never crossed paths. And he really helped pave the way, and he'd pay for everything. And I worked at the gym in ECW. So Sabu, I pay for it. I'm making more than you, and blah, blah, blah. But I eventually repaid him, later on. But Paul said, you'll have a great match. I'll put you with someone. And when I found out I was wrestling Sabu, I'm like, this is going to be fun. But the vibe in the locker room, it was fun because you get to do a show in a place you've already done a show. And the reason why this match is more special than, what you can see in the whole ECW thing is my brother Jim came out with my cousin. My brother loved ECW, loved all the WWE stuff, but he got cancer and passed away in 2017. But just to have him in the audience, and he's like, I want to be there for that one. And it was really cool knowing he was out there, and he loved the whole show. And he'd always go to the WWE shows too, and he'd bring my mom, and my other brothers would go, but when they were in Detroit. But he made that drive out there. He's like me, loved to drive, and he drove out with my cousin and stuff. And you're part of history on that show, So it was just a very good show. And then that's John Pee Wee Moore, the referee right there. And we would travel, us three, right in the ring right there. We'd always travel together. Yeah. It was a difficult moment in my life because, my daughter was just, and I'm not going to get emotional or anything, but I don't mind talking about him. But I was getting a divorce, which I knew because my ex-wife lived in Germany. She really missed her family and friends. So it was just a very difficult time. And I can't say I'm glad I went through it, but I think I went through it for a reason so I can help out younger men and women. And that's anything in life. You have the elders to help out the youth. And I always tell people, my phone's always on, call me. Because I'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'll be on the phone with you till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It doesn't bother me. I'll just have to grab an energy drink or a coffee, and I'm wide awake. I can wake up, and I can go back to sleep at any time. So was so happy for this. One of the reasons why I was brought into NXT is to, so guys can get in the ring and, younger guys in the ring with a veteran. And, like when I was getting in the ring with Dusty Rhodes, just you feel him and then you feel how he works the crowd, you feel how he reacts, and you're part of that. And when you're in that environment, it betters you as a talent too.
Oh no, here comes another one. Rhyno again! The abuse that Sami Zayn has taken is unbelievable. Covered, Rhyno trying to put Zayn away.
It was a really good match, and I knew Sammy from, Ring of Honor prior to that, but never worked with him or wrestled him until then, and we're in front of the audience, and they pop, and I'm just like, now I know why you're so cool. I know there was something to it, but now I'm a big fan, but yeah, that was, I'll never forget that, yeah. It was a really, really fun match, too. To be there with the men and women and see them grow and become stars, and they were stars there. This is when Charlotte Flair was here, and Becky and Bailey and all these men and women, and NXT was such a hot product then too, and it's just kept on growing. But just to be like at the forefront, like you look back and you're like, wow, it was really nice to be part of that and contribute. Yeah, the whole build-up with Heath and everything, and he was the one that finally came through at the end, and what a reaction. It's a special moment. The only thing I can think of why it worked so much with Heath and I, people really liked me from the whole ECW thing, and people loved him. They love Heath. I didn't think it was gonna work. They go, oh, we're gonna put you and Heath together. And I'm like, well, this ain't gonna work. That's what I thought to myself. But whose ever brainchild it was to put it, it just worked. And I don't think it was supposed to go to the titles, but it just worked so well. And then we did a thing where we're at his house in the trailer, and the wife and the cheese cracker. I got a glimpse of like the cheese and crackers. I never ate cheese and crackers. And I'm just making smiley, because you're out there, you're just filming this and that, and just people laughed and they loved it. I went to the grocery store at my house, and then I'm just buying like eggs and chicken and stuff, whatever. And some guy leans over, and it's one of those self-checkouts, and he goes, do you have the cheese and crackers in there? And I'm like, I didn't know, I didn't put two and two together. And this was like a couple weeks after this thing. And then they would have me, with cheese and crackers and pre-tapes, which was great. And I'm thinking, do I know this guy? And I didn't put two and two together, and I didn't know he was a wrestling fan. And I'm like, what does he mean? I go, pardon me? And then he goes, you got the cheese and crackers in there. And I go, I never eat cheese and crackers. He goes, you and Heath, the cheese and crackers. And I go, oh. I go, duh. I think what really made it was opposites. We're like, here's this rough, tough, and here's this guy, I got kids, and he just makes you laugh. And the best thing I can say is we developed a friendship. He's just such a great guy. And when my brother got cancer, that weighs a lot, and he only had 2.5 months and he passed, and that was 2017. We would call him in the car, and he'd be on the speaker. And you heard in his voice the same guy that talked to him before he got cancer. It was like, for those, 3 to 5 minutes, you could hear in his voice he wasn't thinking about how he had cancer, and he knew he was gonna die, and Heath would make it a point to, hey, let's call your brother and stuff, and Heath didn't know it at the time, he was just being himself, but we've all been in touch with that, family members and stuff, but for a person to just, what he does in the ring made people so happy. And then when you can give that gift to someone, it's just something very special about that moment. But it's one of those things where you're like, hey, I'll do anything for you, you know, so. When I was a kid, my buddies in the summertime, they wouldn't, you know, they all sleep in and stuff. And I was always a morning person, so I'd get up and I'd walk down 4 blocks, across the street to Kmart, and I go in the TV section. It was Saturday morning and Sunday, so you'd have superstars and stuff, you know, and they probably didn't care if I turned, but I'd turn it all to wrestling, because I figured, okay, there's like 30 TVs here. They'll think 30 people are watching to help ratings, because I didn't want wrestling canceled. I gotta tell WWE, you know, if it wasn't for me, you know, they're probably looking at the ratings. Boy, that Taylor, Michigan, a lot of people like watching Saturday morning and Sunday morning wrestling. People will come to me, you know, when I'm doing signing and say, hey, I seen you here, or I met you at a card shop signing. And then they would tell me the town, and I've been very blessed with a good memory. I remember things in my life, I can categorize it, but with wrestling, I can do the same thing, so. Not all shows, I mean, I've probably got about 3,000 matches, but I think the biggest thing, you know, you enjoy watching it, but how meaningful it is to people, the wrestling fans. And that's the thing with wrestling. A lot of times people describe us as larger than life, and then when you do things that have impact on people in a positive way, you know, I think that's more important to me, to hear how people, you know, like, oh, I used to sneak in, you know, or I used to wake up early in the morning so I could watch ECW, and my parents wouldn't know, and, you know, and then they're sharing wrestling with their kids and stuff, you know, or someone's having a bad day and they just watch some wrestling and they feel better, you know, so, you know, or some people say I was going through a difficult part of my life, and, you know, wrestling is, you know, I really, you know, enjoyed wrestling, and it helped get me through it and stuff, you know. And when I was a kid, I watched wrestling, and it was very important to me, so I know how important it is to them, because, you know, wrestling was always there for you.